The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, the final PGA tournament of the season, not the year, of the season. It's a Tour Championship from Eastlake, 30 players in the field. We're going through the entire DraftKings pricing. It's a weird week because there's no cut. There's only 30 guys around. It's like a super condensed WGC. The strategy for this is super difficult to figure out. I always do very poorly at these types of events, so I brought in a ringer to try to figure all this out from Awesemo.com. Now from Awesemo.com, it is Ben Rasa. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. I also do bad on this, so when we put our heads together, we're going to figure out how to attack a 30, man.
See, we can probably figure that out. One of the best ways to do anything around, especially setting like hard limits in terms of exposure on players or capping your salary cap at a certain price to make sure that you leave money on the table to differentiate, I recommend FantasyNational.com. Now, if you get the yearly membership right now, it'll take you through the Tour Championship next year, which I know a lot of people did. So if you haven't done that yet, this is the perfect time to do it because let's be real here. The swing season starts in 3 weeks. So you got to get that Safeway Open pre-research in. That's the way you need to play this. But we'll stick with Eastlake. We'll probably talk a little bit of Ryder Cup towards the end. Hit the description to figure all that out. My cheat sheet will be up Monday on dkplaybook.com if you want to hit that as well. Don't forget to give the episode a like, and in the comment section, leave your DraftKings handle after giving it a like, and tell me who you think is going to win the FedEx Cup. Not just this week, but the entire FedEx Cup. Ben, who do you think is going to win the FedEx Cup? You're ineligible for the draw, though.
Okay. I think Justin Thomas is going to win.
I kind of think the same. I kind of think the same thing.
Really? Yeah. I mean, he's in the top 5, so he controls his own destiny. I just have a funny feeling that he goes back to back here, which would be pretty cool.
So the guys that can, so how the FedEx Cup works is you're going to have to be inside the top 5 in terms of the reseeding. And if you win and you're inside that top 5, you win the FedEx Cup. Everyone else on the outside looking in is going to need to both win and have a few things break their way. So right now, the guys who automatically win the $10 million if they win at the Tour Championship, Bryson DeChambeau, Justin Rose, Tony Finau, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas. Then the guys with a shot who could win, and we need, I guess, everyone else not to come in second or third place. It would be Keegan, Brooks, Bubba, Billy Horschel, Cam Smith, Webb Simpson, Jason Day, Molinari. That's like your top 13. Those are the ones with, and even just inside the top 10 are probably the realistic opportunities that you're looking at for this. But I want to talk strategy, DraftKings-wise for this. Just quick steps. So, like Jason Day has withdrawn from this tournament in the past. Jim Furyk has withdrawn from this tournament in the past. And if that happens to you, you're screwed. And you're going to win $0 if they are in a lineup because you're going to need to have all 6 guys play all 4 rounds because everyone is playing all 4 rounds. So just quick tips on how you can differentiate your lineup or potentially the proper strategy since we don't actually have a clue here. What do you do?
Well, this is a week. I don't advocate this during the year, but you can leave a lot of salary off the table. Still within reason, but these are all good players. You don't have to just even leave $100 or $200. You can really mix it up. And that's probably your best bet to be unique. We only have 30 guys. There's a couple that I think will be pretty unpopular. So you're just not having that many permutations, especially if you're trying to get close to the 50K salary.
So what would be the max you think you would leave on the table, like 1,500?
Yeah, I think something like that's pretty reasonable. I mean, just looking over the pricing, obviously they had to, you see guys in price points that they'll never be again just because they're filling out this field. So I have no problem. I mean, if you went with a lineup where you used like Day and Rahm and guys like that in the middle, you could even go upwards of 2K on the table and make it work if you're trying to be pretty aggressive.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of guys in the upper $7,000 area, low $8,000 area that are regularly priced at $10,000.
Yeah, in strong fields. It's not like, oh, they're, at the Safeway. In WGCs and things, they hover around, they can be in the 9s or even the 10s. So I have no problem doing that. You can do kind of crazy things here. You can jam, 2 or 3 of the big dogs and then go down to Leishman's 6,300, Cam Smith 64. So there's a lot of ways to do it. It's just trying to make sure that you haven't built a team that's so obvious that the Duke level is going to be through the roof.
What do you think is going to be the most popular build of the week? Do you think that people will try to jam in two of the top guys because they'll see like Leishman, Cam Smith, all the guys that you just talked about in the lower $6,000 area? That's like, hey, stars in Scrub City. Or do you think they'll take that approach that you were talking about of playing more of a balanced roster and then even leaving some money off the table?
No, I think most people will do kind of what you said first. Pick a couple of the, mix and match up top, and then they can just see, I'm still playing guys that I'm, familiar with that are good players. That's going to be pretty appealing for a lot of people. And not saying that can't work. You want to make sure you don't have a lineup that's just 6 obvious guys that goes right to 50K. That's probably going to be taken by multiple other people.
Yeah, and even if it's 49.8 or 49.9, 49.5, like if it's going to be the popular players, and it's so early when we're recording this that we're not going to get a great grasp on who the most popular players are going to be for Eastlake. But early, there's already like 30,000 lineups as we speak right now entered in that $6 contest. People are already looking at it. I guess they want to take a bit of a football break, switch over to golf for the last time, or for the final time in like 3 weeks. Then everything's back to normal and you get the swing season and everything like that. But right now, the top 5 in terms of ownership that I'm seeing, Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, Billy Horschel, Rory McIlroy, and Xander Schauffele would be the top 5 that people are going to, which makes sense from both a form perspective, a course history perspective, and a price point perspective, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned 2 guys that have won this event in recent years, a couple guys that are coming in hot, and some price points that are pretty appealing. I think that's fine, but, in something like this, I really tailor it more to just constructing lineups differently. I mean, these are all really good players. There are certainly guys, I mentioned Justin Thomas, that I do really like him this week. But on the most part, you have quality players up and down here. If I make lineups that are unique and a little different, I'll take my chances.
Is this one of the weeks where actually relying on ownership more so than any other is going to be really critical?
I think so. I think this is just one of those weeks, and some people love this, some people hate this, where it comes down more to game theory, more to just, again, roster lineup construction rather than the plays themselves. I mean, a 30-man non-cut, you're going to see some weird stuff happening here. It's kind of tough. Who knows where some of these guys are at? Obviously, the Ryder Cup is looming. I'm more concerned about just keeping it steady in the things that I can control and then seeing what's what.
Also, people, if you're like leading a giant GPP on DK after even midway through Sunday, just in a 30-man field, that can change pretty quickly. You can go from like winning $100,000 to losing money very fast.
Yeah.
So
don't count. Don't even if I see any screenshots through Friday, that's a block material on Twitter. Just keep it steady. Late on Sunday, you can take a peek, but even then, it's going to be a roller coaster.
Since this is because I don't play much Euro, if any at all. I know you played in the Euro KLM, and that was just a minefield for everyone. Fewer than 1% of people got 6 of 6 through the cut, which is just insane to think about. I guess I mean I didn't play it. I didn't even really look at it. I just assume all the biggest chalk just completely whiffed, right?
Yeah, it was real bad. Wu Ashen is winning right now.
As we record this?
It's some weird, wild stuff.
Woo!
But I like that. I like when it's just a minefield with super low 6 of 6. That's more my speed, which is probably why a 30-man non-cut isn't the ideal format, but we'll take what we can get.
So let's talk about the course a little bit. Eastlake is a Donald Ross design. This is where they've been holding the Tour Championship for basically forever at this point. So there's a lot of course history to go around if that's something that you're into. It's just shy of 7,350 yards. It's a par 70. So it is a bit of a longer course. Xander Schauffele is the defending champion. This is a Donald Ross design and some other Donald Ross designs that you can look at because it's like when we talk about Pete Dye courses. There are certain players that do seem to have their games tailored to play on these Donald Ross courses. So Eastlake obviously is one of them, and the other really big one is Sedgefield, which is the Wyndham Championship. We've seen a lot of crossover success between the Wyndham and this event in the past. Sneds has won them both. Ryan Moore has played really well at both. Webb Simpson has done the same thing. Billy Horschel is another one that have just generated a lot of success at both courses. Plainfield, too, where the Northern Trust, then the Barclays, was held in 2015. Jason Day won that year. Stenson and Bubba Stenson actually has won at East Lake in the past as well. So there's been really a mismatch of different winners at this course over the years. Like you had Xander winning last year, Rory the year before, Spieth, Horschel, Stenson, then Snedeker, Haas, and Jim Furyk. Tigers won. Phil's won. So it's a very condensed field. You're going to see a lot of different types of winners. But was there any sort of skill set that you were really looking at? Because when I whittled it down, if you look at like the top 10, and you can use fantasynational.com for all of this stuff, that it was kind of evenly distributed between all the strokes gained metrics across the board if you looked at like the top 10. But approach was just a little bit higher than anything else. But when you whittled it down to the winner in top 5 and their strokes gained average, big off the tee guys gaining strokes that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen, if you talk about Xander and Rory in particular, the drivers kind of way that they separate. So I'm leaning that way too. I think looking how they gain off the tee is important. It is a somewhat long course. You want to be set up on these par fours. You're going to have to keep it, in play a little more than usual, I would say. So I'm going to lean that way. I mean, obviously the irons are always going to reign supreme. If you can pepper the greens and give yourself less scrambling opportunities, more birdie putts, you're going to play well. But I do think that the off the tee is kind of something that I'm going to weigh a little heavier than most.
Yeah, so I included in my modeling this week, I really weighted ball striking, which is the combination of off the tee and approach. But I also went back and added in just a little extra percentage to off the tee just to give it a lean towards that, because I really want the pure ball strikers, but the ones that are a little bit better off the tee, I just weighted it in at like 5% just to make sure it showed those guys a little bit more. But this course is long, but it makes it up in really bizarre ways. Like there are 3 par 3s that are over 200 yards. One of them is like 245 yards. So it's not as long on paper as it might look like as a par 70 just at first glance. That's why guys like Sneds and Bill Haas and Furyk and Ryan Moore and even Webb Simpson have had that success over the years.
Bill Haas, what a downfall.
Your guy. This was the moment of Bill Haas. He chipped it out of the water to 2 inches and won $10 million.
I remember. That seems like it was a lifetime ago for him. He's not here for obvious reasons. But yeah, I do think, we've seen a multitude of players, and it just speaks to the quality of the field. I mean, these are all, for the most part, really good players. It's not a prerequisite that you're going to have to be a good driver of the ball. Overall, though, I do think I'm going to build like that. This is another week where, and I say this often, I will build teams where I'm like, all right, I have a handful of really good drivers here. Then I'll have another team where I say, these guys, they're short games. If it's, say, a little harder than I think the greens are firm, they are probably the better scramblers, and kind of group them together and hope that it correlates.
In terms of course conditions, we're playing on Bermuda greens down in Atlanta. They're one of the toughest fairways to hit on the entire tour. It's way below the average driving accuracy percentage, almost like 10 percentage points below, but the rough isn't that unmanageable. You can play it out of the rough just fine. They typically play really fast in terms of the putting surfaces, but the firmness, like you mentioned, tends to waver based on the conditions at the time. Like sometimes it's super firm, sometimes it's super soft. They get a little bit of rain. We've seen no consistency there over the years. If you click on the past course conditions tab on Fantasy National, you can find all this information. It's up there for members whenever they want to find it. A very underutilized tab, by the way, because it's great for the mixed condition model, but it's just nice to see, like, hey, what is consistent about this course year after year? What is inconsistent about it, and what can we really focus on to see if there are certain players that lean certain ways. I also looked at strokes gained total from the past 5 years, and different guys have played this twice. They played it 4 times, 5 times, or just once, or never before. But the guys with the 5 most strokes gained total at Eastlake as a summation of the past 5 years: Rose, Rory, Casey, Billy Ho, and DJ. Justin Thomas is 6th. He's only played it twice. Billy Ho's only played it twice. He's 4th. The lowest 5 on that rung: Patrick Reed, Kevin Na, Hideki, Leishman, and Tiger Woods. And Tiger only played it the one time, but still, he's in that bottom 5. And there's 6 players who have never played Eastlake before: Bryson Molinari, Fleetwood, Cam Smith, Aaron Wise, and Patton Kizzire. Obviously, Xander, it was his first time playing last season, and he won. So I really wouldn't pay too much attention to who has and who hasn't played well here in the past, right?
No, I don't think it's overly important. And it's also something, I mean, if you look at the tournament history, you look and it's kind of muddled together because there's only 30 guys. So it's like, oh, this guy, 15th, 19th, 6th. It doesn't mean that. I mean, there's only 30 of them. So I prefer my guys to have seen the course. But I mean, Xander proved if you're coming in playing somewhat well, you can do it. And guys like Molinari, obviously Fleetwood, they're certainly talented enough to get it done. Bryson, that's an obvious one as well, even though I'm not. What do you think of him this week?
Whew, that's tough to know. I mean,
I know.
This is one of. It's a course where, like, especially if I link like East Lake and I link it into the Wyndham and like that sort of crossover, the guys that perform well here and at the Wyndham are the same guys that perform well at like Heritage and places like that, places where Bryson also performs really well. So I think he's very intriguing. I might be like, because I think that when we get into it, like there's a big choice that it comes down to. Do you take Finau? Do you take Bryson? I think that's going to be a big debate this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I lean Bryson over Finau right now too. He's just, there's something about him, and I do think off the tee, obviously, he's playing great. Everything checks out. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to pair them up and whatnot if they do go balanced. I probably won't do that, but yeah, I do.
Would you think? Would you start your team there? Play Finau, Bryson, Molinari, Webb, Horschel, and Casey.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. I wouldn't do that just because of the 6 players you named, and people are going to do that. That's a viable build if you can find someone. I mean, there's no real sneakiness with 30 dudes, but if you just throw a couple that are a little different in there towards the bottom, I think that's fine. Absolutely.
Let's play the cross-off game. With only 30 people, we can really get into this. Are there just players straight up you're not playing? Like, will you play Patton Kizzire?
No, there's a 0% chance.
Okay.
So we're down to 29.
We're down to 29. Will you play Aaron Wise? Maybe? Like, you can say no or maybe. Like, just...
Yeah, maybe. Only because his ability with the driver, and I like him, non-cut, obviously. He's a maybe.
Kevin Na?
No.
No? Keegan Bradley?
No. I can't talk about Keegan anymore. He's blacklisted for a long while for me.
How about Mark Leishman?
Yeah, I'll definitely play him. I think I overrate him at this point. I think he belongs in the next tier in terms of quality of player.
Kyle Stanley. Maybe.
I have to ask you that you're better with him than me. I mean, he always shows up. Anything you look at, the par 4 scoring, the longer par 4s, ball striking. I think I should say maybe. I would say no, but that might be a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not committed to playing him one way or another, but he's definitely not an immediate like, oh God, I'm not like I'm definitely. I mean, can I talk myself into Patton Kizzire? I probably can.
Don't do that.
I might just go out of my way and just be like, you know what, this is probably not a good time to do it. Stanley's a quality player, though. That's the thing. Like the quality of player from Patton Kizzire to the next guy up is kind of hilarious.
Huge. It's more power to him for making it, but you're talking exactly. Kyle Stanley's the type of guy. If I saw him up there on Sunday, I'd be a little surprised. But he's a player. Patton Kizzire, just no. I can't. I cannot go there.
Listen, 2 wins in weak fields will get you to the Tour Championship.
Yeah, win. I mean, the way it's structured, if you win, I mean, you can be there for a while. Ted Potter Jr. style.
Yeah, but he's not here anymore. He almost got himself in. The last two guys I wanted to talk about is cross-offs. Bubba and Phil. You playing them?
Bubba, I won't play Phil.
Okay. Let's go to the over $10,000 guys, because that's really where a lot of this is important. When we look at the very top of the list, for the first time in quite some time, DJ is not the highest priced player. It is Justin Rose. He is 11.4, and then we have DJ at 11.3, then Rory, Justin Thomas, Brooks Koepka. That is your above $10,000 level. You concerned that like Dustin might be getting divorced here?
Yeah, I mean that's a serious. I'm not one to read the tabloids, but I have seen those things, and I mean, it goes without saying these guys have real lives, and when they have a personal situation, it can affect just like anyone. I mean, even in DFS, if something's going on in your life, I'm worried about that. I'm not a huge DJ guy to start, but I would be a little skeptical that maybe that's why he hasn't been as sharp lately.
I'm kind of on the same page with you. We see this stuff filter in to golf all the time, and we never find out about it until 2 months after.
Later.
Yeah, months later, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense of why this guy just wasn't sharp enough. And that's what we've been seeing from Dustin. So do you think that puts him as an automatic fade, or do you think people will say and think along the same lines as us, and for the first time in ages that DJ goes under-owned?
Ooh, I mean, I'm not saying he's an automatic fade. For me though, I'm torn to really just kind of put him to the back of the list. If we get word, and I know we're filming this a little ways out, that he's glaringly, difference in ownership, maybe I'll look back. But you're talking about 4 other, best players in the world. I'm just not really to push in chips on a guy where we're not gonna know. If he comes out and he just plays absolutely horrendous, or he withdraws or something, we're going to say, yeah, he's dealing with something. And it's just added risk. Seems kind of unnecessary.
So of the 5 guys above $10,000, do you plan on playing sort of a limited piece of each of them, maybe pushing in a little bit more on one and being overweight? Or are you going to do what I do? I'm probably only going to play, maybe even 10 lineups this week that I'm really going to have to pick and choose. And I might play 1, maybe 2 of these guys and just be forced to fade the other ones to make sure that if I do hit, I hit big. Do you know who rates out number 1 in my past 24-round modeling here?
Rory?
Rory does.
Of course. That's because he's the best. Yeah, I'm kind of in line with you, though. I know that Justin Thomas is someone that I'm going to want. Obviously, Rory is in that boat. The other 3, I think I'm going to be pretty aggressive. I'm not saying I'm going to have 0% of them, but I don't mind, in a week like this, saying, you know what, I'm going to take some aggressive stands here. And then when I say mix and match, when you only have, you rule 5 or 10 guys out, you can mix and match with a large percentage of the field. And if you get a couple guys that you feel good about, right, you could be in a pretty good spot.
So who are the 2 that we're going with? If we had to say we picked 2, I'm going to go with Thomas and Rory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rory's preloaded, and I really do think that Justin Thomas is going to be there on Sunday.
Just fading Justin Rose, and I mean, fading any of these guys is terrifying because they're like the 5 best players in the world. But fading Justin Rose right now when he's hot, and like I mentioned, he has the most strokes gained at this course over the past 5 years. He's only played it 4 times. That kind of terrifies me too. He's
one where if I can, maybe I try to take a position to cancel if I'm not getting overweight. Because that guy, I mean, I'm not saying it's been quiet, but what a year. I mean, he's not getting he's 15 top 10s in 22. I mean, just what a year. It's really been impressive. He's a scary one. DJ is whatever. Brooks, I never get right, so it doesn't really matter what I do there. But I'm with you. I do think Rose, if there's a 3rd guy where I have somewhat ownership, it would certainly be him.
So since since he won at Fort Worth, which I believe was in the beginning of June, 1st, 6th, 10th, 2nd, 19th, miscut at the Northern Trust when he lost 7 strokes putting in 2 days, second. Like, that's ridiculous. And now he's the number 1 player in the world.
It's crazy. I mean, he's taken over the mantle of just like the DJ consistency, and the one miscut, I think, kind of set people back on him, and it was just such an anomaly. You could see it. It's hard to imagine that he has a bad week. At the same time, these are 5 real good ones, and I'll take my chances with Rory and JT.
Well, I just wonder about the ownership, because I think that people will pay up because they can, and they see the back-to-back runners-up, and obviously he's had a lot of success at this course in the past, and you can pay up, pay down in the situation. What do you think that his ownership borders on? Like, will he be the chalk guy from up here? Because in order for him to pay his price in the lineup that you have to build around him, he kind of needs to come inside the top 3.
Absolutely. I think he'll certainly be popular. I'll say this. I think Brooks, and depending on what we hear with Dustin Johnson, would be the 2 that'll come in a little lower owned. I expect people to definitely go to Rose. Rory's Rory. And then Justin Thomas, I think, sets up well. You do get a little savings there. I would expect people to kind of flock to him. You look at the results. And Rory has the course history bump. People see that he won in 2016 here. That's certainly going to bump it up. So I would say if you're looking for the lowest owned of these guys, it's Brooks, I want to say. But it's still early. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to play Rory for sure. I want to play Justin Thomas, but if he becomes the overwhelming chalk from this range, I will pivot to Brooks, because Brooks would be my third. I mean, it's tough to go up so far with the lineups that I want to build and leave money on the table, that getting to Rose for me is going to be very tough. But I would take all my JT shares and put them onto Brooks if it looks like JT's coming in at like 35% ownership and Brooks is coming in at 12 or something like that. Because no one's going to be like 1% owned this week. That's just impossible to happen. But if you get like 12% ownership on anyone, that's huge. And I don't think that the discrepancy between them is 3 times as much based on the ownership. That I think that's just a very logical move.
100%. I mean, when you're talking about guys with this caliber, I would do that almost blindly. If you're telling me I get 3x and I can take a third of the ownership, I'll move my shares. And again, that's in a week like this, I think it would be silly not to try to go for those angles.
There's only 2 players in the $9,000 range. One of them is one of these, like one of the most popular players on tour, and the other one's just we like to call him Little Tony Finau. So we have Tiger Woods, he's $9,500, and Little Tony, Ricky Fowler, who is basically the minor league version of Tony Finau at this point. He's a guy who can't win. What a swing for him, right?
So sad. Yeah, I know my man in orange. Oh boy, I don't know what to do with either of these guys, to be honest. I think I'm more interested. Ricky, I don't know, and maybe I'm overthinking this. It just seems like he's kind of prepping for the Ryder Cup. That's why he came back. He was fine.
He like at the BMW, coming back for the first time since skipping the first 2 events with the injury, he was just all putting. Lost on approaches. Was basically break even off the tee, gained a bit around the green, and gained all of the strokes putting.
Which, I mean, I know it's late in the year. It's a little too late for that. I'm glad to see him putting again. That's what he used to do all the time. And then you have Tiger, who it always seems like it's about to happen, then it doesn't. You know, he'll, I'm sure, break through at some point here. Is it going to be this week? I don't think so, but it'll be fine. It depends, you know, if he has to lean heavily on that driver, that's still something that I would worry about a little bit. You know, the fast green should help him. The approaches have been good. No concerns there. He's always popular. Obviously, in a 30-man, like you talked about, everyone's going to be popular relative to what we're used to seeing. But yeah, I don't mind it. I think I could have some Tiger shares in there.
Yeah, well, Tiger actually has gained off the tee in the past 3 tournaments, which I found really surprising. And he's been essentially the most consistent iron player on tour for the past, 4 months or so.
It's crazy, but it's true. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy I try not to get super, he's one where if he's 25%, I might have 18% and say, okay, I hope he doesn't kill it. Obviously, I don't want him to play great, but if he does, at least I have a couple outs.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in on Tiger as well, probably around whatever the field share is, like you said, either slightly overweight, slightly underweight, depending on how I construct the lineups, but he is one of the guys that I'm targeting. $8,000 level, this is where we got some names, some good names too. Hideki is the first one on that list, and just because of the pricing and the way this works at $8,800, he seems to be the one who's probably going to be forgotten. Like if you started your team's Fowler Hideki, I doubt very many people end up doing that, but we have Hideki, Finau, Bryson, Molinari, and Day. That is the $8,000 level. That is loaded with supreme talent here.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we talked about leaving money on the table. This is why you can do it. Look at the talent in the 8K range here. You could start here. You can mix and match here. I'm in on Hideki. The irons are back. I hope he's somewhat forgotten, and that is going to be one of the guys I use to try to be a little different. Hope we get the good putting. We talked a little about Finau and Bryson, and then obviously Jason Day at flat 8K. We'll never see that. That's such an atypical price.
I like Molinari the best of these guys.
Do you?
I do. I feel like this is the perfect kind of course for him. Like longer, he's going to be able to hit his longer irons pretty well. He's going to be one of the few that keeps it in the fairway, and just the way that he's played. And it's funny that after he started winning, I kind of had to concede that I was wrong about Molinari, and maybe I still am. But it now seems like his wins have been so long ago, which were like 6 weeks ago, that he's kind of forgotten.
He's definitely come back to. I mean, I was so far off him after he won, at Carnoustie. He's regressed a little, thank God, and now he's at a playable price point and so I don't mind that. He does gain off the tee. It's mostly because he's very straight, very accurate, and there's nothing that's going to be super useful here. You mentioned the long irons. No problem with that. It's hard in a vacuum. I just look and I have Jason Day, $200 less. Naturally, just the way I kind of build, I always would lean there. But Molinari's a guy I rarely play. This week, I'm certainly going to have some.
Yeah, like fading Finau and Bryson just seems really tough as well, that they're both playing so well. But I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around Finau. You should just basically the rule of thumb is play Tony Finau every single week whenever the field is hurt, because he always plays well.
I haven't played Tony Finau. I want to say since the Bridgestone, maybe even before. I've had like 0% of him basically, and he's wildly overowned and he crushes it every week. The PGA was the last straw for me when he should have been cut 5 times over. But yeah, I mean, I'm one to say, hey, you know what? More power to him. If he keeps it up, he keeps it up. I probably come in underweight once again. Part of that's probably because I'm priced in, and you shouldn't do that. That's a bad habit. At the same time, though, when you have massive ownership levels, and we're going to see that once again here, there's so many pivots that you can make. I have no problem swerving again and say, you know what? Maybe his putter goes cold. I mean, he's been great off the tee, but he's also saved himself some pretty immaculate rounds. I mean, Northern Trust, 8 strokes around the green. That was absurd. A couple timely putting performances. The rest has been great. I mean, he's playing well, no doubt, but I don't mind going underweight there.
Over the past 24 rounds, Tony Finau is 4th in this field in strokes gained putting.
Yeah, like what is that? I mean, he gets the under 70 bonus every week. Every week, it's the same thing. It comes preloaded. It's insane. He's super impressed. It's amazing he has no wins this year, but
all right, let's talk $7,000 guys, because there's one in here that I really love that I'm definitely going to be playing, and this is probably going to be the bane of my week and why I lose all my lineups, but I love Webb Simpson here.
Yeah, I could see why you'd want to go there. You mentioned, some of the corollary courses. He plays well there. He's just somehow an elite putter all the time. I see that for me. I'll probably get sucked into Jon Rahm again, who I don't know if people will be going there, and that makes it even more appealing in something like this. He's just been blah for a while now. I don't know if he's hit a wall or whatnot or something else, but do you have any interest in Rahm? I know he's right by Webb.
I mean, the gaining off the tee went away last time around, so that kind of discouraged me. And I don't like him at long iron courses. Like, he's not great with his long, or just not even his long irons, but he's not great on approaches from like 175 yards and out. Now, he doesn't play a ton of those shots because he hits it so goddamn far, but still, like, I don't know. He just seems off.
He definitely seems off. There's no disputing that. He's just I don't know. I still think it's kind of in there for him, and he's such in a spot where I don't see people going there. You have Webb, you have Billy Ho.
Can you play Billy Ho? Because I think you might have to.
I mean, I'm probably not going to play him, to be honest. So I hope you don't have to.
Doesn't it seem like he's right there? He has, the top 10s coming in. This is exactly what he did when he won this event. Exactly the same thing.
No, I mean, I see it. But the thing with me, and again, maybe this is just my overall mantra this week, is I see it, but so does everybody else. Like, there is almost no angle that you're looking, with stats or form or anything where you're like, oh, 7,300 Billy Ho, I should go here because everything sets up so well. But for me, it's like, if that leads to a somewhat depressed Patrick Cantlay, and I'm not saying he's going to be, sneaky by any stretch, but man, if I'm getting a discount there, I'll go to a guy who, I mean, it's never encouraging to see you lose a boatload of strokes on the green here last year as well as last week, but I'll kind of roll the dice and say, you know what, everything else is still working pretty damn well.
Well, I guess the other guy there is Tommy. Are people just over Tommy? Because I feel like we say that every week, and then it turns out he's the highest owned guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. There are so many weeks where it's like, oh yeah, and then he's 40% owned, and it's, he's very volatile. The upside's always there. I kind of group him with Rahm, to be honest. he's playing a little better for sure, but it's no one that I'm looking to jam. And if I have a team and I need a guy in that range, he would be in the mix for sure. But I think Billy Ho is an important guy. Well, one way or another, you better know what you're doing with him. That's for sure.
Well, I think that what you're going to see the most common pairing in any lineup is going to be Billy Horschel and Xander Schauffele to end people's teams.
Yeah, and that's what you can do when you if you take a couple guys up top and you end with those two, I'm not sure there's much you can do in the eights to even be unique at that point. If you're hovering around 50, and I haven't done, the math on the teams with what you would be at, but I 100% agree. If you end in the sevens, most likely it's going to be 7 flat or with Billy Ho. I'm not sure. You better have a weird build because you're going to be in probably some trouble in the dupe range.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to end your team, and whether you play Billy Horschel or whether you play Xander Schauffele or you play them together, that has to be one of those lineups where you leave like $1,500 on the table.
Yeah, I don't see any other unless you find a weird combo, but it's really tough to do.
Yeah, you would basically have to start your team Ricky, Hideki, play Rom, play Xander, play Horschel, and find some other guy that's not super Brooks potentially. If that I don't know
Brooks.
If that, I don't know if that works out, but then you would still have to leave like 700 on the table for that even to potentially not be duped.
Exactly, and it's just like all that to play Billy Ho and Xander. For me, it's not. It's still those guys. I'd rather get, like, if Justin Thomas is going to be popular, and I think he will be, I would rather move pieces around to get him in and live with the results than move pieces around to ensure that I have Billy Horschel. I know everything sets up, but I'll still I tend to lean with the guys up top in terms of making sure I want to get them in rather than a guy like him.
Okay, so because we know they're both going to be super chalky and maybe just avoiding one is the way to go. If you had to play one and fade one, would you play Billy Horschel or Xander Schauffele?
I would play Xander over Billy Ho.
I would play Billy Ho over Xander.
If the ownership, do you think the ownership's going to be the same on those two? Relatively?
I think it'll be super close.
Okay. See, I don't want to hedge my answer. If it was completely the same, I would play Billy Ho. I think we see him in a next tier of ownership, and that's what would do that for me.
Like right now, I have him projected to be top 3, but we also have way more content to be released, way more hot takes to be had, Golf Channel specials. That might be the big one. What plays more on the Golf Channel? Is it going to be the Xander highlights from last year or the Billy Ho highlights from like 4 years ago? Probably the Xander stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Hopefully they go back and they show Bill Haas and Billy Ho's triumphs, and we can bump those ownerships. But yeah, I mean, it's tricky. It's counterintuitive for me, and I think for a lot of people. You find plays you want, and then you find other guys that you don't want to play as much, but you have to weigh the ownership against the potential head-to-head pivot. That's just what you have to do. And you should do that often.
$6,000 range. This might be where if you can pick right from down here, chalky or not, because I don't know how chalky anyone's really going to get because Horschel and Xander are going to suck up a lot of that ownership. That when we take a look at the names, Patrick Reed is down in this level. We have Paul Casey down in this level. Gary Woodland, Phil, Bubba, the guys that we mentioned off the top, Smith, Leishman, Bradley, Wise, Stanley, Knock, Patton, Kazire, they're all down here. Am I crazy to like Cam Smith the best now that he has had such a bad week at the BMW? But doesn't this course seem very Cam Smithy, where he can hit those long irons? That's super cool. If he gets around the green, he's amazing around the green, and he's been riding this hot putter and I think that people might avoid him in this circumstance and just play Keegan.
I don't think he'll be popular relative to what I think he should be, and that makes him appealing. Yeah, the wheels fell off. I mean, the putting was not the problem. Not that he had a good putting round. It was everything.
It was everything, yeah.
Yeah, it was just – and sometimes I'd rather see that because it's just like, you know what, this is a throwaway. It happens. I think for me, I would go to Leishman, to be honest, or up to – the guy who I thought you were going to say, and I was going to have to agree, was Gary Woodland. Just kind of a gut feel, you can lean on the driver, shown some form here and there after that horrible stretch earlier in the year. don't think he's going to be popular either. And Tee to Green, it's been good. I think he's my favorite in the entire 6K range.
Well, in the stats would back you up. He's the only one that rates. He's number 10 in the statistical model over the past 24 rounds. The only guy that ranks that highly from down in this range. The next is Keegan. He comes in at 17 over the past 24 rounds, and everyone else is inside the 20s. Reed is the really interesting one to me, because we know he can go out and win in these types of fields. Just he's had such a bad track record here over the years, but he's a former winner at Wyndham. Well, he's had success on Donald Ross courses in the past, and the way that this course is laid out, like he plays the long par threes really well. He's really good from around the green. He's just off right now, but everyone is going to be off of him.
Yeah, I've been playing him a good amount, and I keep thinking it's a nice spot, not working.
Yeah, I was say I've been doing the same thing. Hasn't worked. Paul Casey is the other one. I believe he has top 10s here the past 4 tries.
Yeah, he does. His course history is pretty damn good. And I'll say this, the little red Q, if that doesn't go away, even if we get word that he's good to go, that will temper ownership.
Why would he not be good to go, though?
Oh, he's definitely going to play. I just mean if they don't remove that, he didn't want to go out because it was, the stupid delay. That was actually really expensive for me. Wish he would have just played, but yeah, I have no problem. I mean, look at 6'8". That's a ridiculous price tag. Reed, I'm not going to try to predict if he's got his sights set on France already. You mentioned that he should be. I don't see any reason why he would struggle here consistently. And, people said that about him at Augusta. I have no doubt that he can go out and play well. And those are guys, I don't know how many I dip into the 6s, but they're towards the upper half of guys that I wouldn't mind playing in this range for sure.
Did you know that Bubba has only gained strokes through approach once since the Open Championship?
I didn't know that, but there's nothing you could tell me about that guy that would be surprising at this point, because he's just Bubba. And I guess he's playing. I'm just looking right now. He actually had a pretty bad stretch there.
Yeah, so after winning the Travelers. But here's the thing. If you're looking at it right now, look at the amount of strokes that he's gaining off the tee lately. It's probably the most in the field.
Yeah, his off the tee it's ridiculous. Not sure how much, he's going, like, not to bring it back to Rory, but Rory was doing that where he would, 350 and he has an 80-yard wedge and he can't hit it to 20 feet or better. It's ridiculous. You have to take advantage of that. Obviously, when your irons aren't clicking, Bubba's putter's never really valuable. So
it can be valuable from time to time. And
when it gets going, yeah.
And Bermuda is sort of a neutral surface for him. Like, he's a bad putter on bent. He's generally a good putter on the slower POA greens. But just in general, across the board, I believe he's like a strokes gained 0 as it pertains to Bermuda grass. So I'm not too concerned about him. Like, I might give Bubba a go here.
Yeah, of course it's a non-cut. I wish there were more par 5s, and it's Bubba. You know what goes on with him more than I do. Is he interested? Is he into it? Does he care? Things like that you can't quantify. Make it annoying, but at the same time, he's 6,500. He's the kind of guy, the talent, no question. He's one of the better players in this range.
He's also high enough in the FedEx Cup that if he wins, it's basically like some guys, if Patrick Reed wins, like, there's probably still a 0% chance or a 0.001% chance he walks away with $10 million. If Bubba wins, he could win the entire thing.
Do you know where he is? He's like fringe top 10.
I believe he's 7th.
Okay, so yeah, he has a real shot, especially if Bryson doesn't. Obviously Bryson wins. Don't really matter, but yeah.
But Bubba is 8th in the standings right now.
So you know what? That is a good point. That is a boost. That overall theme of, am I looking at guys where they are, to an extent? There's plenty of people in this that they're going out, and if they win, they have 0% chance to still win the whole thing. But when you're in the top 10 like that, there's definitely some incentive to go and get it and see what happens. So that's a plus for Bubba, no doubt.
Just trying to see here. So you get 2,000 points for a win, 1,200 for second place, and 760 for third place. That must work out math-wise.
Vamp this.
So if Bubba wins, with the reseeding here, I'm just looking at it right now, he'd be up to 2,800 points. Bryson would need to come first, he would need to come second, because he couldn't come first, because Bubba would theoretically come first.
Yeah, Bryson in third, that's those points.
Yeah,
wouldn't get him there.
Yeah, Bubba would still win.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, so if Bubba wins, he has you would have to consider him favorite for sure. You know, you're asking Bryson, he has to come in second because, like you said, Bubba would be winning. That is a factor, no doubt. And at 65, this is gonna be an expensive show because before I had no real plans to give Bubba a hard look, and now I'm gonna have to re-examine that.
Yeah, I hadn't either, and that just kind of talked me into it, which is probably just a terrible.
Who is he, 7th or 8th, wherever. I would have thought he was like 15th if I had to guess.
Yeah, he has the 3 wins though, and like one of them's a WGC.
Yeah, those are like that's a lot of points.
That's a ton of points to go along the way.
That stupid match play.
Hey, that was the best tournament of the year for me, pal.
Yeah, you figured out how to do that?
No, I had Bubba everywhere.
Yeah, that helped. Kisner just destroying DJ's little bracket. That was a weird one. I wish they had it 2 years ago when Tani Hara made the run. I would have been rolling in it.
But. So would I. That year I had we did the brackets. I had Haas and Tani Hara going to the semifinals, and they both went to the semifinals. It was like, oh my god, where? But I didn't have any DJ or Rob. I had them going out in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have been with them, but yeah, those are two of the best.
What a weird juxtaposition for players, by the way.
I know. What do you think about all that? Do you have an opinion?
It's Bill Haas. Just at that point, he was still Bill Haas. He wasn't like the deceased body of Bill Haas like we see now. And just Pete Dye courses suit him. It's like Kevin Kisner at these Pete Dye courses, or Siwoo Kim at these Pete Dye courses. Like, they just play well with them. There's something about, like, there's weird eye lines. Like, there's a lot going around just to try to mess you up at Pete Dye courses, to throw you. Like, Jack Nicklaus course designs are very much the same way. Like, that's why Kuchar and Furyk have had such success. And, well, we saw DJ and Rahm blast their way to a title in the match play, or go head-to-head in the final. We saw Bubba do the same thing. But, like, Kisner was there. He's a Pete Dye specialist. Like, Noren's played really well on those types of tracks as well. That anytime that... Yeah, bombing can be a really big advantage, but if you're bombing it, like, you need to hit, if it's going to be one of those weeks, you need to hit all the fairways with your driving distance, because if you start spraying it, you're kind of screwed. Those guys never spray it, which I think is a big advantage.
Yeah, no, that is it. Obviously, when some of those, when you bring water into play and you can't, it's partly it's just, can you avoid the blowups for 72 holes?
Yeah, and the guys like, I mean, we talk about Furyk, Haas, and even Tani Hara and Kisner, like really good short games on all of those guys. So when you're playing in match play, there's an element of luck to it as well. Like, Bubba was going out and steamrolling people. He was winning like 7-up, like, because he was in hot Bubba zone and all he was doing was making birdies. But when you saw like Kisner and Noren, like, they're more just grinders. Like, they probably shot 70 that day, and the other guy just had a bad day. Yeah,
no, that is true. I mean, you should have KLM. Tani Hara is playing over there in the Netherlands this week.
Is he winning?
No, but he's playing the weekend, which is more than most of the people that we know. So,
yeah. Ben Rasa, tell everyone where to follow you on Twitter and where to check you out now at awesemo.com.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, JazzRazDFS. New home, awesemo.com. Plenty of cool stuff. You know, we still got the Slack. I'm still doing all that. Projections, same old. And then we have a ton of new people, a ton of new content. So stop on by.
Yeah, and promo code PME will get you a free week trial at awesemo.com. I think for football, maybe for everything. I'm not sure. Either way, it'll get you at least football with promo code PME. So you might as well go check that out. Free week, why not, right? Ben Rasa, thanks for being here.
Anytime, man.
All right, enjoy your college football too.
Yeah, a lot of fun ahead. It's a busy time of the year, but best time of the year.
All right, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at ThePME on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My cheat sheet for DK will be out on Monday afternoon, up on DKPlaybook.com. You can find it in the description. after it comes out. I mean, if you're watching this on Sunday evening, it's not out yet, so you're going to have to wait for that. I'll update that as the week goes along once I start getting a grasp on projections for ownership and things like that. So a few picks might change, but just remember, in this field, I mean, obviously picking the top 6 finishers would be ideal. You would win if that was the case. If not, this is more of a game theory week and leaving stuff off the table in terms of salary than any other during the season. So remember that. We'll be back for Ryder Cup stuff, just as a chat about that, making some projections and some picks. And then Safeway. We're only 3 weeks away, right back at it. Swing season for DraftKings. Do not be afraid to become a member at fantasynational.com. Get all the stats, all the DFS DraftKings tools that you need to be successful. At least put yourself in position to be very successful. All right? Thank you. It's been a fun golf season. We'll see you for next season, 3 weeks from now, like I mentioned, on the Pat Mayo Experience. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck this week. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!